House Majority Whip Congressman Tom Emmer of Minnesota joins me now. Thank you so much for talking to us. This situation is just grimmer by the day, and you have to wonder why this administration doesn't take terrorism seriously. Because, I mean, honestly, if we were talking about ISIS or if we were talking about Al-Qaeda killing Americans on either side of the border, wouldn't we be taking action? But yet this is no different. People are being killed here in the United States by the Mexican cartel, and now they're being shot to death in Mexico, and only now are we paying attention to that.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for having me. They frankly don't take anything serious. And they seem to be living in a parallel universe where all the facts are as they see them, not as they actually are. The idea that you won't or can't designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations is outrageous. And the statement that it doesn't give us any more tools, well, okay, then why wouldn't you just accede to Republicans' wishes and do it? Because if you're making the argument that it doesn't do anything, then there's nothing to argue about. In fact, it does do something. It would be significant. And these people have not, they've been soft on China, soft on crime, soft on everything else. Guess what, Julie? They've ignored the southern border. Because they've ignored the southern border, they've allowed this thing to turn into a major crisis. It's not just the number of people coming across the border. It's the security risk, not only on our side, but as you can tell, as this tragedy, these 4 Americans who lost their lives proves, they've totally lost control of the situation.
It's one thing not to have anything in place at the border and have open borders, right? But you've got Mexican drug cartels that essentially are being emboldened by our White House because we are doing so little that it's almost like we're holding up a welcome sign. And Senator Graham is saying that he's going to introduce legislation to give Biden the power to use the U.S. military against the cartels, while Democrat Gonzalez says Mexico should accept us and help to eradicate cartels. The Mexican government is not our friend right now. They are not trying to eradicate anything, and they see the White House allowing it to happen. So what pressure is there on the Mexican government to take care of problems when we're inheriting their problems? They're crossing our borders every day in the tens of thousands.
The only pressure is coming from Republicans in the majority in the House and Republicans in the minority in the Senate,
right,
who are raising awareness on this issue every day and who are actually calling for the administration to take action. I got to tell you, Julie, it's worse than even what you just described. It's not just that the administration is sitting back and not taking any affirmative action, which in fact encourages our adversaries, in this case the cartels, to move forward with their human trafficking and all the awful things they're doing. But we've got the American Red Cross that is supported with U.S. tax dollars, that sits on the FEMA board. They are literally putting out maps to migrants to tell them how to cross Mexico with this dangerous journey and how to enter illegally across our southern border. They call this humanitarianism. I call this a tragedy and a failure of moral integrity.
Yeah.
Humanitarianism, being humanitarian would be securing the southern border and making sure that people could enter this country in a legal fashion safely.
And what you're just referring there to regarding the American Red Cross is packets that apparently were discovered. It was an exclusive uncovered by the Daily Caller that, in fact, in those packets, it actually gives tips and information and it assists the illegals as they cross over. A federal judge, by the way, Wednesday ruled that Biden's border policies are unlawful, writing a scathing opinion saying the Biden administration, quote, effectively turned the southwest border into a meaningless line in the sand and little more than a speed bump for aliens flooding into the country. There's a new report which finds this. Taxpayers, you are spending $182 billion a year on illegal immigration. The bottom line for each taxpayer is more than $1,100 a year. This comes at the midst, and this should make your blood boil. And here is why. Because here we have a president that wants to raise your taxes. He wants, if you make over $400,000, he wants to raise your Medicare. Okay? So you have to pay more in health insurance. And of course, illegals get free health insurance when they come into our country. All because why? Our money is being used to fund things such as this. This is just one of the examples.
Yeah. Well, first off, when he says just people $400,000 or more, that's a lie on its face. You're talking about the lawsuit that the state of Florida had to bring to try and get our government to enforce our immigration laws and to secure our southern border. First off, the American public should be sitting back and saying, why does one of our states have to actually sue the government to do its job? I would argue, Julie, this is why the articles of impeachment filed by Pat Fallon of Texas and by Andy Biggs of Arizona against Mayorkas for not doing his job at Homeland Security might actually have legs, because you've got the actual administration. Biden is saying there isn't a problem at the southern border. And by the way, he also adds, or his people, that if there is, we inherited this problem. The very court case that you talk about, Julie, said you didn't inherit the problem, you created the problem. And you need to do something about it. So this is the challenge that Republicans have in the House and in the Senate. The American public are smarter than the Biden administration gives them credit for. This is going to be an ongoing issue for all of us until we get it resolved.
Probably not a surprise to many people. China is a very big, very dangerous problem for the United States. The National Intelligence Director telling a House committee last hour that we need to counter the threat, and now.
The CCP represents both the leading and most consequential threat to U.S. national security and leadership globally, and its intelligence-specific ambitions and capability make it our most serious and consequential intelligence rival.
China, this is nothing new. Why is it that we haven't done anything about China?
Amen. I mean, this started with the Biden administration. Frankly, their weakness on the world stage has emboldened all of our adversaries. And number one adversary, which these hearings yesterday once again confirmed, is China. The Biden administration, their soft on China policies has simply emboldened China, which is now suggesting that partnering with Russia is important to weaken the United States of America. This is why Republicans created the Select Committee on China. This is why Chair Gallagher is going to chase down every CCP member in this country who has been causing problems. It's time to get tough on China. And guess what? Republicans are going to take over where the Biden administration has failed when it comes to China.
All right, Congressman Emmer, thank you. Emmer, thank you for talking to us. We really appreciate you.